Sure.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
And 3, 2, 1. Welcome into another edition of Game Time Talk presented by Blitzalytics.com. We are covering the AAF QB Pick or Protect draft. Here I have in many special guests, which include Blitzalytics' own Ashton Moore, Blitzalytics AAF commentator, and I would say basically our AAF expert, Roy Countryman. We also have our scouting director, Jason Feiner, and soon will be joining us the great Russ, Lande, Montreal Alouettes college director of scouting, and NFL, XFL, AFL, CFL scout for the long time, 20-plus years in the industry. He will be joining us shortly. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Doing wonderful, Jack. Doing
well. Yeah.
Ready to see history in the making.
Amen to that. All right, so what are you guys most looking forward to as this draft starts?
I'm looking forward to a lot of these quarterbacks. It's getting a second opportunity to come out and show what they got and see some interesting decisions by the GMs here, if they're going to protect the guys that's been in their own quarterback rooms or if they're going to go gamble a little bit and get one of the other ones from the pool of quarterbacks.
What about you, Ashton? What are you most looking forward to?
There's a lot to look forward to here, but the one that's most intriguing me right now is just pure curiosity of how this is going to go. I mean, this is the first time they're doing it. I personally think they had some hiccups, just the overall presentation and just announcing of how everything's coming about, like the player draft they had about a month ago. That wasn't even on social media, and now they made the jump all the way to CBS. So I'm incredibly excited just to see how the production goes, how they handle it. I see Kurt's involved already, so I'm excited to see how he goes about it. And I'm just excited, guys. Let's do it.
What do you got, Jason?
I'm excited to see where a lot of these players lie, just with some of the big names in the coaching side of the AAF, with Mike Martz and Bishop Sankey in their backfield. Excited to see what type of athletic talent they can get in their backfield to be their signal caller, and who they can get from Michael Vick in another city in the AAF. It's going to be a definitely wild ride with the new league coming in and the inaugural first protector pick draft. It's going to be absolutely special to be a part of and see where it heads.
What do you guys think is going to be the most interesting aspect of this draft? Well, actually, before I get into that, Roy, for the people listening, please break down exactly how this draft goes, because this is not just your typical draft. This has a little bit of fantasy input into it in the snake style, and it's definitely different than anything we've ever seen before with this pick or protect. So give us the details of tonight's draft.
So the way this works tonight, Jack, is you have 4 rounds, but it's actually almost 5. You start off by the same draft order of 1 through 8. The teams get aligned, and you get an opportunity to protect one of your own quarterbacks that you've already been allotted to your roster. If you choose to protect one of them, you have to use that protect in the first round. You do not get a chance to pick from the open pool quarterbacks. If you choose to pick, you have to wait till all the rest of the other teams in the 8 get a chance to protect their own. Then once you go into the first round, any of the ones that chose to pick get to take a pick from an open poll of all the quarterbacks available. So it's going to be interesting to see if we're going to have some safe GMs that only like the guys in their own room, or if they're going to gamble and, being in Vegas, are they going to try to hit the big one?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what these guys do. Do they play it safe and try to just take the player that's been already allocated to them, or do they go out and try to improve their roster by any means necessary, but gamble, and you have no idea in this pick or protect format whether your guy's going to be there or not.
Very true, very true. That's why if you like the guy that's in your own room, you might stick with him.
Hey, Russ, you with us?
I am here, guys. What's going on?
How you doing?
Hi, Russ. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to see what these teams do. There's a lot of talent out there at quarterback that's already that's signed with the Alliance League. So now it's just a matter of if the teams select the right guys and see which coaches can really sort of coach out the talent. And I think there's 3 or 4 guys too that if they play well enough, I could see them being back in the NFL within a year or two. Age may be a determining factor that some of them may not get that chance, but I'm really excited to see how some of these guys pan out once they're picked, because there is some talent at the quarterback position in this draft. There's no question.
Absolutely.
Couldn't agree more, Russ.
All right, so we'll go through the list right now of some of the quarterbacks that are going to be on this draft and see if there's any of these names spark anyone's interest. We have Aaron Murray from Georgia, Tom Armstrong Jr. from Nebraska.
Yep. I'll just tell you, I think Murray is one of the top 4 in the whole group. I think this guy's a frontline guy for the Alliance League. For the NFL, I'm surprised he's not on a team as a third-string guy. I mean, this guy, he's a little guy, but his arm is good enough. He's got a very good release. He's a smart kid. I think he falls a little short in almost every category for an NFL caliber quarterback. But there are worse guys on NFL rosters. I like this kid. I think if he gets an opportunity to start over there, I'd be very surprised if he's not tremendously productive.
I couldn't agree more, Russ. I think you could see a late career resurrection here. He's only in his late 20s. He can maybe parlay this into either a backup job, or if he shows well enough, if he gets with the right system in an NFL team, I could see him definitely leaving after 1 year.
I got a question.
He has the talent to succeed. It's been the injury history of his that's been really derailing his career, especially in that draft process that made him fall to the 5th round. He has the talent, he has the arm strength, he has the mobility to succeed at this level. And I completely agree with you. He should be a backup in the NFL. He falls just short of each of those categories that make him an NFL starter.
Hey, Russ, as a scout, are you looking more for, like, how you're saying you could see a few people making the next jump to the NFL? Are you looking mostly at just how they've advanced from the last time you've seen them? Because someone like Murray, you haven't seen in a few years. So what do you need to see from him in order to make you feel comfortable taking the jump on him? Like, if he just doesn't do too well in this league, stats-wise, is that going to really hinder you at all? Or are you just looking for things in specific for, like, per prospect?
And when you say me, assuming I were an Alliance GM or as an NFL person?
Like an NFL person, because you said that there's a few that you could see making that next jump. So what exactly are you looking for with these quarterbacks from an NFL perspective?
Well, I think 2 things. I think, 3 things, really. A, if they kept themselves in shape while they've been outside the game, because some guys tend to sort of let that get away from them. I think 2 is, are they healthy? Have any of the injuries that have bothered them in the past, and you mentioned Murray, and there's guys like Mettenberger here from Jake Heap, guys that have been injured either in college or in the pros. You want to find out if they're healthy. And then most important, when you watch them on film, have the areas that held them back, when you watch film of them when they were either on an NFL team or with an NFL team in an offseason, you saw them in training camp or just in college and they never even made it to the NFL, are the issues that you felt held them back, have they improved? Have they done the work off the field to become better in those areas? Because if they have, then they have an opportunity. But if you're talking about a guy like a Murray who's been in the NFL or a Matt Sims or a Mettenberger, and the same problems they had when they were in the NFL are still happening when they're playing for the Alliance League, it's probably not even worth wasting your time to bring them in because they haven't corrected those issues. But if they've gotten better in those areas, that's where all of a sudden you can say, you know what, this is a kid we had pretty high grades on. When he was in the NFL, we saw some flashes. Now he's worked on the 2 or 3 things we thought were major problems. This kid might be worth signing to a futures contract and bringing him at least through the offseason program so we can see where he stands right now.
And I think you hit it on the head there, Russ. I think the timing of the league works out a lot for these guys, too. They're not competing. They'll be able to get on a roster either as a futures contract or right before the training camp. And if they're really impressing them here, they're already going to be in shape. And they can maybe just ride that wave right into a preseason and win a job.
Yeah, but it's a lot like NFL Europe used to be.
Yep.
Yeah, and you said you hit on play if they're in shape to play. There's a big difference between being in shape and being in play shape, and we're not going to know really if they can be in play shape until they get into those pads into the system once they're involved in the with team.
Oh, there's no question. But you at least want to see a guy show up to your workouts or to your facility when you're doing off-season stuff? Is he at least in shape? Some of these guys, you'd be stunned. Some of them show up to workouts and they have a gut hanging over their belt and stuff like that. And for a quarterback, he ought to be in pretty good shape. Even a big guy like Mettenberger. Now, I'm not expecting Mettenberger to ever be a ripped-up guy, but at least not be hanging anywhere. Be solid. For a big guy, just be solid for me. Don't be where you're looking fat and soft body.
I liked Mettenberger coming out of LSU back in 2014. He had the ability to play in the league as a backup and possibly with the potential to eventually be a spot start for a team if an injury occurred or anything like that. I believe he has that talent. He could become a big part of this AAF journey.
Well, I think there's no question. I think a lot of people really liked him when he was coming out of school. I think it's been a weird transition for him, bouncing around, trying to find a home. I really thought he was going to get that chance. He started a few games in the NFL due to injury, and he really didn't blossom in those games, or at least show enough to make you think it's worth the long-term developmental situation.
I mean, you didn't see that development back in Tennessee. Guy.
No, exactly. You didn't see it in Tennessee.
I think a lot what's going to happen here, Russ, is where these guys are going to go and what system. I mean, if you're going to go to a guy that's a West Coast style offense and can get the ball out quickly, or if like for Mettenberger, if he gets into an offense that can push the ball vertically, he's going to put butts in seats. If he goes to a bad system, we might see him struggle. So I think that's going to have a lot to do, and it's going to be interesting with this protector pick to see, are guys going to go with best player available, the best quarterback on the board, or are they going to go schematic fit?
Is this the results?
This is the initial draft order. So we have the Fleet to start off, the Iron, Hot Shots, Apollos, Legends, Stallions, Express, and Commanders at the very end of the first round. And they will then have the 9th pick, and it'll go in a snake order similar to fantasy football, which should be interesting. It's going to be... It's going to be difficult to try to gauge how exactly the 9th or the 8th and 9th are going to go about. I mean, they definitely could go and protect one and then go after another, or vice versa. So we've never seen this before, so it's almost impossible to try and guess what's going to be.
Yeah.
I think they might even have a built-in advantage. That way they can pick one of their own even and come right back and grab the best one out of the poll if they want.
Jack, the title of this is currently Monday Night Football.
Is not. Not on my phone. So I'm looking at it right now. But yeah, definitely.
That's what we got in the Slack chat
a second ago.
Okay. Great.
But there is a lot of interesting, even outside of the quarterbacks, here are skills position players for each one of these teams. Blitzalytics here, and a lot of the identities for the offenses as well as the skill positions. Russ, you even had one of the guys I'm sure you were scouting for the Alouettes last year, the number 1 overall pick, Mark Chapman's with Salt Lake. His rights are owned by him. So it'll be interesting to see some of these guys adapt that were maybe just one step below or even just a priority free agent, maybe a late round pick that got injured or something, seeing them come into the foray.
Oh, this is a great opportunity for guys that either got a chance in the NFL, bounced around but never found a foothold, or guys that just came out of college and either didn't get a chance because teams didn't like them enough, or they had an injury. This league, just like NFL Europe, just like currently the CFL or potentially the XFL, provides these players with a chance to get on the field and get film, because that's the most important thing a player could do is get out and start playing football. Because when you start sitting around and there's no new film, teams move on to the next person. But when you're out there getting film and building a reputation out there and able to supply that film to the teams, that gives you a chance, if you've been good enough, to at least get looked at again. And that's the big thing, is you want them to look at your newest stuff if you can get out there and get on the field and get film together.
Okay, Russ, put your GM hat on. If you were the GM right now, we're coming up to the first pick. What would you do? Would you protect one of your own in the building, or would you gamble?
Well, I think a lot, and I'm going to look at my list here of quarterbacks and whose rights are whose, because I think San Diego has the first pick, if I'm correct.
Yep.
All right, so I got to see who's on their list here of quarterbacks before I can tell you that I would definitely who they would choose. I will tell you the one guy that I thought made perfect sense for San Diego was Aaron Murray, but he is not one of theirs because he's obviously with the Atlanta franchise. To me, he seemed like the ideal guy for Mike Martz's offense. Mike had success not only with Kurt Warner, but with Mark Bulger, guys that may not have had the greatest pure physical skills, but they were efficient, they were smart, the ball came out fast, they made great decisions. I mean, they had a lot of the things you wanted.
So you have for the San Diego fleet, you have Josh Johnson, Marcus McDade, or Keith Price is the ones that are allotted. Keith Price played at Washington. Marcus McDade was the backup to Derek Hart, Fresno State, and Josh Johnson, the NFL vet.
I mean, if it were me, I'd probably pick from one of the other quarterbacks. I mean, I like Keith Price. I thought he did a lot of great things, especially that game where he had RG3.
Oh, we have it.
And if it were me, I would probably pass on protecting, and I would try to grab one of the other quarterbacks. If you forced me to pick one and keep one, oh, man, that's a tough one. Josh Johnson's an awfully talented kid. Was coached by Coach Harbaugh at University of San Diego about 10 years ago now. And has bounced around football, has never really developed, but a very gifted kid with a big arm, tremendous athlete. The Price kid's a little kid, wildly inaccurate, had that great game in college against RG3. He actually outperformed him. I think he had 6 or 7 touchdowns that game. But to me, if you had to protect one, it would have to be Josh Johnson. But I'm not sold on any of these three.
Right. That's McDade.
It would also be
went
difficult.
to a German league. It
would be difficult to protect with an age of 32 as well for Josh Johnson.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Here we go with the first pick. He's coming out. Hines Ward. Protect or pick here.
I think they go Josh Johnson.
I think there's probably 8 quarterbacks. There's probably 7 quarterbacks better than Josh Johnson. So I think that they're
going to
choose the pick. I think as in my mock, I chose them to pick.
Let's see where they go. Hines Ward is up.
It's nice to see somebody come out to make a pick and not get booed.
It's the first time in a while.
Maybe ever.
Potentially.
They protected Josh Johnson.
Called it. Yes.
All right.
I'm interested to see how much they value having a veteran, like an experience, someone who's been in the quarterback room, someone who's gone through the NFL ringer and can I don't know. I wanted to see how much they would value that because his age is absolutely a factor. And you definitely want to go with one of these younger guys who have more potential possibly. But I think that possibly put some value into play here.
Yeah, before he starts playing, he'll be 32 years of age. Like Russ said, he does have a big arm, good athleticism. Mike Martz, he can maybe squeeze the orange a little bit more and get the juice out. So
that's why
he's got more
protected him.
He's got more playing time in the NFL than I believe anybody else in the league, correct?
I'd have to check you on that. I was going to say,
between
sure.
him, Matt Sims, maybe, but yeah, it's got to be close.
Stolzien, yeah.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Remember, we don't even know if this league is going to be here.
You have to think the reason is March.
So you can't worry so much about age, and you have to have someone that's going to be able to learn the system and at least be functional as a rookie in order for your production on the field to not be terrible. Because that's one of the things that killed the XFL was their football that first year was so bad that despite great ratings the first 2 weeks, it was such horrendous football, people turned it off. So although Johnson may not be as talented as some of the other quarterbacks in this draft, I think they may look at it and say, this is a veteran guy. He's very bright. He's a leader. He's going to be able to get our team on the right page. We're not going to have a ton of time. Remember, we're 75 days away from opening day. This is going to be a rush when they actually start practicing. They're going to have a month of training camp. So you need a smart kid and a veteran guy like this. It makes sense. I'd be surprised if this league does last 3 or 4 years. I'd be surprised if he ends up still being their quarterback because there are some younger options that I think they'll take in the next rounds. But I understand the pick, and it makes a lot of sense, especially considering how fast they have to get up to speed to have a chance of being productive this year.
Yeah, you have a strong foundation. Then you can take your lottery picks later on. And looking at some of the weapons they have on there, like Jason touched on, they have Bishop Sankey. They have the running back that played for the Steelers, Terrell Watson. Another nice back, Paul James, that played at Rutgers that kept having knee problems. They have a couple nice receivers from USC, from Darius Rogers to a guy they called Megaquan, Daquan Hampton, to even some nice slot receivers from Nelson Spruce to the kick returner from the Broncos, Isaiah Burse. So they have some guys that, especially with Johnson's arm talent, can maybe push the ball down the field. As a quick study, they might be able to put up some big points here in a hurry.
Marshawn Lynch is there. This is awesome.
It's amazing.
This is great.
Yeah, I think this is the first time that we've ever seen just the masses, the football community get behind a league like this and really get behind a developmental league.
Definitely.
When you have names like Troy Polamalu and Justin Tuck and all the lists of seasoned NFL vets and potential future Hall of Famers getting behind a league like this, I think
even Mike
only
Vick with an OC job.
What's that?
Even Mike Vick with an OC job.
Yes, that is going to be exciting to see what Michael Vick does. I mean, he's had some great OCs and offensive-minded coaches from Andy Reid. I mean, you can name off all the great names that he's had to learn from. So I can only imagine the kind of style of offense he's going to run.
And don't sleep on John Kitney either. He has a lot of good experience as a backup and a starter in the NFL. He's the OC for the San Diego Fleet and learned from Mike Martz.
Yeah, I think Mike Martz is going to have a huge impact on him.
And Mike Martz was one of the main coaches for the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. He's good with working with young guys that are on the fringes of the NFL rosters. So I think he might be able to bring out the best in some of these players. And it'll be interesting to see.
He's the orchestrator of the greatest show on turf, so he definitely has the experience.
Can we maybe get the greatest show in the Alliance?
Yeah, exactly.
There it is. Who are you thinking, or Russ? You think they go with your boy Murray?
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense to protect Murray.
Yeah,
I mean, based on where it is. Yeah, I mean, to me, it would make a lot of sense. I do love the kid, Patrick O'Brien, that they also have the rights to from Catawba College. I think he's a guy that's got a real future in football. But obviously, Murray is much more established, much more polished, and he fits what Childress has always done in terms of West Coast offense scheme. He has a lot of the tools to be successful in that scheme.
And Childress was in Kansas City when he got drafted, too, so he has some insight in that aspect.
Exactly.
Very much, and I think you might see a lot of that if there's any type of familiarness between a coach and a player, even some of the position coaches. I know, like Josh Johnson, there was one for, I believe, the Memphis quarterback coach. It's now the OC. He actually coached Johnson with Harbaugh in San Fran. So if you can pick up any type of footprints in the sand, that might also lead to one of the picks.
And what you touched on earlier about being in playing shape, I'm very interested to see how Aaron Murray looks out the gate, because he was like on SEC Network literally within the past month. I know I saw him, and now in the past week he signed up for the Alliance. So let's see if he's been keeping up. Let's see if he's been working out. Let's see if he's in shape.
Well, seeing what I saw of him when he was at the Chiefs in training camp a few years back, I mean, this kid is the type of kid, work ethic-wise and all those things, that he will do what it takes to succeed. And I think a player like him, what was so successful in college, he didn't become successful just because of his pure physical talent.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it came from hard work. So I would be stunned if he's not in shape and ready to roll when it comes time, because he is sort of a pit bull in terms of work ethic. So I'd be very shocked if he is not ready to roll and in perfect shape.
Is he your pick for most likely to make the NFL, the first chance at the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably between him and Mettenberger.
Okay.
Mettenberger has ridiculous talent, and if they feel after watching him and he's harnessed it, I think he could get another shot. But Murray's a guy that if he just goes out there and has a really good season, I could see some teams saying, hey, how is he not better than our third?
What do you think about Hackenberg? If somebody can
bring him
back up from the ground up, Russ. He's
probably one of the most interesting guys in this whole thing, because physically he's a freak.
Yeah,
because you have to pick him, though. He's unallocated.
He could be the best success story of the draft. Yeah.
Yeah, he's. I mean, Hackenberg to me, it's just the ultimate frustration. He has the gigantic arm. He can do everything you ever asked of a quarterback. It's just, can he hit the broad side of the barn? I mean,
his mechanics, his footwork, it's
mechanics, everything. I mean, it's just, and I don't know if
think
he's
the only way
quarterback. It's
he really needs to be in a system where they're going to move him, play him in the RPO, let him get out of the pocket, play him in shotgun, focus less on his dropbacks.
Yeah, I disagree with you, Jason. I think what would be best for him is if he can be contained within the pocket, especially if he could go to an offense like San Antonio, Mike Riley, like playing in or putting out a pro-style offense, and
work off play action.
Work off play action and some good running backs in the fold. You're relying on his footwork, though. That's relying heavily on his footwork if you do that. But if he never fixes that, Jason, he's never going to get to the NFL. This is what this league's built on. If he don't build himself back up from the foundation up, which he had been doing before his chance with the Jets, before he got traded with the Eagles, he had tried hard working on his footwork and a lot of that kind of stuff. So I believe it may be in the best interest for him that he would go to the RPO type offense.
Now, a question I have.
That's where I agree with you. Well, that is where I agree with you. If his goal is to get back to the NFL, it's to grow, it's to develop and work on his footwork. But the best thing for him, if you want a productive player in the physical freak that is Christian Hackenberg, I believe that if you can get him out of the pocket and let him move, focus less on the footwork, is where he'll succeed.
I think he's going to be one of the lottery tickets, though. I don't think they're going to take him first round, even maybe middle of second, just because he does have the talent, but there's a lot of work to do there. So I think maybe like the San Diego, it has a veteran could step in there and take the reps now, have him work till maybe, say, 3-4 games in, get him in the footwork, or maybe one of these other teams where they could take a couple games, work with him in practice as well, and let him maybe come in mid-season rather than right off the bat just because of the flaws. Yeah.
I like that.
Now, a question I have for you guys is, and I'll open the floor to Russ first and let everybody else kind of elaborate on this. What do you think is going to be everyone's main goal in this? Is it going to be to get better and develop because this is a developmental league, or are the coaches looking to win now? Is the focus to get better as a whole, or is it to win games? Because I think there's going to be two completely different approaches from maybe the player standpoint to the coach's standpoint. I know everybody wants to win, but it definitely would differ from if you were trying to make sure that your players are getting back to the NFL instead of trying to keep your job or trying to get a job in the NFL as a coach.
You know, I don't think the coaches are going to be so much focused on getting back to the NFL or getting NFL jobs. Obviously, they all like that. I think the coaches, if they're smart, what they're focused on is, hey, let's make sure our team is fundamentally sound, knows our playbook inside and out, and they can run the offense we want to run and the defense. Because for this league to succeed in terms of getting people to watch the games, the games have to be good quality football. So if I'm a coach, yeah, obviously I want to help my kids any way humanly possible to excel so they can get an opportunity to go back to the NFL. But I need to make sure my team is on top of everything. They've got everything 100% down pat in order to put a good product on the field.
Goes to protect a small school kid from Tennessee, Martin. He has a small school, great grasp of little things that a quarterback needs to know. He can go through progressions, and he can throw his receivers open as well as hitting them in stride. He has some good athleticism, and he can scramble outside of the pocket. He has a nice release, a 3-quarter, and he can get rid of it quickly. His arm strength is middle of the road to good, but he's better when he's throwing in rhythm and in anticipation than he is stepping back and trying to hit vertical routes. So interesting pick to protect him over the likes of Zach Mettenberger and Austin Allen, some guys. There's some guys out there. I was kind of surprised they chose to protect him over the likes of them.
Yeah, you had him as your 29th ranked quarterback. That's very interesting that he would go to them.
Yeah, that's an interesting. That's a what moment?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, clearly somebody there, and that's the reason this guy was probably always has been their top quarterback that they were looking at in terms of once they got his rights. And clearly they saw a lot there. If they're willing to protect him over Mettenberger at this point, then you have to feel confident that this is the guy that can be your starter this year.
And it's interesting because the Memphis staff had to kind of play back on their heels because they actually originally signed Hal Moom as their offensive coordinator, and he actually had to step down. And now their offensive coordinator is David Lee, an NFL veteran quarterback coach. And so it might be interesting that maybe he was wanting to go with a more air raid type system, a more wide open type of a system than, maybe than what Mike Singletary's kind of used to with the downhill, grinded out running attack. So Singletary's maybe handing over the keys to a young play caller.
And rightly so, considering Mike's strength is not going to be in the offensive side of the ball.
Right.
Trusted, had fought hard to get him on our neg list, and we had him there for about 2 years, but I was not impressed with this kid. Great kid. You'll want him to succeed, but I'd be stunned if he ends up starting in the Alliance League. I would expect that someone else will beat him out.
Totally agree, Russ. My evaluation I have of him was a below-average backup quarterback. He was a statue inside of the pocket. He didn't have a big arm, but he could dink and dunk his way down the field. But this is more of a scheme fit, I think, for Mike Riley, with a drop-back style passer, maybe hand the ball off a lot, maybe do quick throws in the short to intermediate area. But and he's more of an intelligent type player. Like you say, that might be coming into effect that quick studies are going to be maybe coming off the board quicker than maybe talent per se. That might be in store for the second round.
Yep, I could see that totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it seems like a few teams are just playing it safe with who they were given, and it's better have the devil you know than the devil you don't. Which
the San Antonio roster, their skills position players are some of the best in the league. They have a lot of speed, quickness. They also have a guy, Ishmael Zamora, played at Baylor. He had a lot of off-the-field issues, but man, has he got some size and speed combo. They have a guy named Speedy Noyle, went to Texas A&M.
I was about to bring him up. He's explosive.
Bit of a character,
explosive.
But yes.
And the running back fleet they have there with Kyrie Robinson, ex-Saints player, as well as Darrell Richardson, David Cobb, and in between the tackles Pounder there. It might not be a bad idea just to quick hit down the field and let your playmakers do the work.
That's very true.
Well, he's a lot. Jack, his film was a lot of dink and dunk, though. It's a lot of check down, get the ball out quick. I don't know if they can give Dustin Vaughn the time to drop back and throw downfield to their speed.
Very true, because he is a statue back there. He does not have a lot of escapability.
Hey, Jack, was Aaron Murray for the Iron, or did he go to the Atlanta Legends?
Atlanta
Legends.
That's my fault on the graphic. If we could get that repaired, they asked about that on YouTube.
Yep, I'll get that. And now I'm kind of figuring this out now. So,
learning as we go. That's what happens with it. But thanks to Parker O for getting that information to me on YouTube.
Sorry about that, guys. That is on me. And
the Iron here
giving us some false info.
Yeah, the Irons should be a very interesting case. They had actually the most quarterbacks signed to their list with Memphis. They had a lot of guys that had NFL or college success. One of my favorite quarterbacks in this whole draft, he had a lot of off-the-field issues, but he had a gunslinger mentality. Steven Garcia is on their list.
Mm-hmm.
We also have John Gibbs Jr. from Alcorn State, tall guy, good arm. Eli Jenkins from Jacksonville State. R.J. Nitty from Bucknell, Max Shortle, it's kind of similar to Dustin Vaughn from Jacksonville State, Brandon Silvers from Troy, and you had your winner from Alabama, Blake Sims. So they have a
Curious
lot
to see if they bring Blake just because of the local support that he would bring in. That would just sell tickets in himself. We'll see.
Well, I'll tell you what, if the Garcia kid has gotten over the things that held him back in the past in terms of off-field decision-making, he's a very gifted quarterback. I mean, this is a kid that I know NFL team all thought he could play. Off-field decision-making led to him really never even getting an opportunity. But if he's got his stuff together, he could be a guy that carries a franchise in the AAF. He's an extraordinarily gifted kid, and not only gifted, but he's a gifted kid who's got a knack for making big plays in key situations. He's got a feel. He has a pocket presence. I mean, this kid is talent-wise probably second or third, maybe even fourth in league. But when you add in his intangible ability on the field to create when things go sideways, he may be the top guy because he is one of the most creative, instinctive quarterbacks of all the quarterbacks in this entire class.
I totally agree, Russ. He's actually one of my top 5 quarterbacks out of this entire draft. I loved watching the tape on him, but I hate the off-field stuff. He does seem like he has matured, and he is not that old. He'll be 30 by the time this league starts, and he's the type of guy I could see catching lightning in the bottle, riding the wave, maybe see a Jeff Garcia type move to the NFL because he has that kind of arm talent, and he also is a rugged runner down the field as well, which could always be good or bad. But, man, he has a heck of an arm, can throw it in the tight windows, can push the ball down the field, and can move on rollouts. He upset Alabama back in 2010 when he was with South Carolina. And I know it was one of Steve Spurrier's big headache kind of guys when he was down there. But if he's actually mature, I think that's the guy they should protect here.
We have a forecast question if you guys have time for it. The people in the chat are asking basically if it succeeds the first year, if it gets little footing, could you see some larger name quarterbacks? They bring up Manziel, Tebow, things like that, jumping in next season.
I definitely could see it happening. If we get a year or two success here, I believe this league is going to attract a lot of big names. I'm not sure if Tebow will ever come back to football, but I could see Manziel if he would happen to go away.
Manziel's on the Alouettes, right?
Yeah, he's on Russ's Alouettes.
Yeah.
But I totally understand it. He may be happy where he's at, but I'll tell you what, that may be one of the things that can actually get people to show up and watch these games.
I would love to see that.
Because I'm just trying to figure out how this league is going to make money.
I don't understand how they're doing this. See, we were told you have to either go protect or pick, and Luis Perez was on the San Antonio crew.
I believe they went through and they just didn't announce who was picking and who was protecting. So
gotcha.
As of right now, these are all the picks.
Yeah,
okay.
That's why the order is wrong. They went through privately and did it. That's why the order is wrong. I'm sorry, guys.
Luis Perez is the guy I was talking about on the podcast earlier. He was a 9th-string quarterback at a junior college before he transferred to Texas A&M. He gave up high school football to be a bowler, and he had some ridiculous athleticism down at Texas A&M Commerce. He stood 6'3". Good arm, could get outside of the pocket, but he is extremely raw to this kind of coaching. So good type of piece of clay to take a chance on, but it'll be interesting to see going forward.
He's a bigger body that might be able to take some hits as well.
Yeah, and he was impressive. I think it was the Rams that brought him in during the offseason. I thought he did a lot of good things there to maybe not make the team now, but I think eventually he could get another shot in the NFL.
Totally agree, and he's confident but not cocky. I mean, you'd have to be working up from a 9th-string quarterback, no high school football, natural athlete. So
it's going to be a lot of learning the game and developing at the position.
A fun little comment in the chat here from Karma Posse. CFL versus AAF would be an awesome battle of North America.
I think the bigger question is which league's rules would you take?
Oh, good question.
They're very different.
Yeah.
The
Play it by half.
Exactly, yeah. Because the CFL is very different from any league in America, and the AAF is very different from the NFL. So it would be dramatically different. The bigger, wider field of the CFL, along with no fair catches and the motion before the snap, combined with no kickoffs. The no kickoffs and no fair catches thing, there might be something we'd have to give there.
Some big collisions and a lot of points.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
It's going to be that would be a glorified arena league game, I think.
Yes, exactly, right? Holy smokes, would that be crazy.
Speaking of play type, with all you guys in the room here that do the scouting, do you see the AAF being more like the NFL currently with the passing leading the way, or is this going to be more old school grind and pounded out football?
I think this will be a lot of West Coast systems, old school ground and pound, get your back the ball type of systems.
I'm going to have to disagree. I think they have to throw the ball. I think it's the only way you're going to get fans to show up and watch football when they see the NFL do this. I think they are going to throw the ball. I'm not saying they're going to be as successful as the NFL, but I think you're going to see, Mike Martz doesn't believe in running the ball ever. Brad Childress is going to want to throw the ball a ton.
I totally agree, Russ. I think this is going to be a passing league, and we're going to see boons of it. I think you might see some experimental stuff that you're going to try here, and it might go on to Sundays and Monday football. And I think a lot of these quarterbacks are going to get a chance to showcase their arms.
No question.
I will side with that side as well, for the simple fact that these guys are playing for their jobs. The coaches are trying to provide a new and exciting type of league, and if they can bring some of that college-style offense, the new age Andy Reid, Sean McVay style of play calling, I think it's going to only add to the effect of this game. Not to mention, I think that they're going to be a lot more aggressive in terms of fourth downs, in terms of exciting gadget plays and misdirection type plays. And to speak on it, Trevor Knight was just selected by the Hot Shots.
Which is an interesting case. He's a better runner than passer at this point. He did pre-snap. It's an interesting pick.
Roy, this question's for you. Tim Fink asks, do you have any ideas to the rosters? Which is your favorite up to this point? Obviously, Sans quarterback.
Well, just speaking from right now, because I can't get all the defensive players in my mind right now. I was focusing a lot on the offensive side. I am impressed with a lot of the skill position players in San Antonio. They have a lot of NFL caliber talent or ex-players in Kyrie Robinson, Darrell Richardson, David Cobb. They have some interesting receivers in Ishmael Zamora, DeMarcus Ayers, who was a Steelers pick a few years ago, or Speedy Noyle. Was a tremendous spark athlete, if you follow that with Nike. So they have some interesting guys. And also Atlanta, they have Stephen Hill, a former receiver from the Panthers, tall guy, good speed. Jeremy Gallen, a decent receiver from Michigan. Kieris Garrett has a good set of hands. James Quickett knows how to get open.
Shoelace Robinson.
Yep, Shoelace Robinson was just signed recently to be a running back, not a quarterback. And also a nice H-back in Gerald Christian. So there's some guys there, and I'm not going to sleep on the Arizona guys either. They have probably my favorite running back out of the entire league, DeMario Richard from Arizona State. He reminds you of Maurice Jones-Drew, just a little bowling ball type guy, and he'll get yards after contact. But I'd probably have to go with either Atlanta or San Antonio. But there's a lot of NFL caliber guys sprinkled around a lot of these rosters, especially on the offensive side. I'll have to get back to you on defensive talent.
All right,
it's okay. Offense sells tickets.
Russ Lande had to take off and join his SMWW class. For those that don't know, a majority of us came from Sports Management Worldwide. If you're interested in scouting and GM work in the NFL or any sport in general, please check out sportsmanagementworldwide.com. You are taught by the industry's finest, from Russ Lande himself, Mark Dominic, former Buccaneers GM, and now Sirius Satellite XM podcast and radio host. They also have John Wooten, who used to block for Jim Brown and and has 40-plus years in the league in the scouting department. So check out smww.com. Shameless plug.
Also, while you're at it, another shameless plug, you're going to want to visit blitzalytics.com as often as possible. We keep you up to date on all your football, fantasy, AAF, the whole nine. So blitzalytics.com if you have any questions about anything football.
And hit us up, any one of us that are on that site, on our Twitter or email. We'll answer as many questions as possible. We do game time talks for some of the NFL games. AAF, we're starting to do pretty much exclusive content on them throughout the internet. A lot of people are not getting a lot of original content, so check out Blitzalytics. We're the original content people.
Yeah.
So really quickly, there's a good question from, I think it's pronounced Smintz, in the YouTube chat. Is Denard Robinson going to be considered a QB or a running back, and can he be picked in this draft as a quarterback?
I cannot give you a certainty on that. He was announced, I believe, as a running back, but as you've seen, we've been misinformed of a lot of the draft order and a lot like that. They announced at one point there was 50 or 56 eligible quarterbacks in this draft. I could only get a list of 45 to 46 of them. I wrote up reports on 40 of them, so I would say probably not, but I couldn't give you a sure answer.
And didn't you have a chart for fandom as far as what team you should be associated with as far as where you live?
I don't know if it ever got put up on Blitzalytics.com, but it will be before too long.
We will make sure we get that up first thing tomorrow if we haven't already. Also, check out Blitzalytics.com. If you go to the main page, we have an entire AAF section dedicated to the Alliance of American Football. And our good buddy here, Roy Countryman, was able to give a breakdown of each roster so far and all 8 teams. A great little excerpt right there for you guys to check out and know who's gone where, at least on the offensive side of the ball. We will make sure to update and get the defensive side of the ball taken care of as soon as possible as well.
Anybody have a favorite jersey?
Orlando.
Yeah, the Apollos are nice.
I like the Stallions. The
Stallion.
blue and gray was nice.
Yeah,
I like the irons. I don't know what about it.
I like that.
I'll be honest, as an artist, I think they did wonderful across the board. I think they stack up well with the current professional uniforms and helmets, and I actually think the helmets are better than a lot of the NFL style helmets. I'm a big fan.
I don't
like the numbers. I don't like the numbers.
Yeah, I don't like the numbers.
Amateurish.
But everything else was clean. If they could take the numbers off, I would be in full support of everything they've done.
Yeah, I would actually say I like the helmets more if they took the numbers off than the NFL helmets.
All right,
Orlando Apollo's pick is in. Garrett Gilbert.
That was actually one of the guys that was not announced as a part of our crew here, so we do not have a write-up of him. But he was an SMU quarterback that had a lot of good seasons down there.
Can you see maybe a team installing a offense that has been typically collegiate only, like maybe an air raid, and going with that and seeing how that works in a professional style with only 8 teams?
I could see Orlando doing it with Steve Spurrier at the helm. With that kind of offense and his way of interpreting it, I think he could really do damage there. But I also wouldn't discount Mike March trying to do it as well.
Yeah, I mean, they have to make the first things first is they have to make this league work over the players. And so if they can get eyes and they can make an exciting game, that should be the first goal of this league. Second goal is to win games. Third goal, I think, is to develop players. I think it's on the players itself to be able to step up and improve from where they were in years past and reasons why they didn't make it. I mean, half these guys, and we've talked about this before we started this live commentary, half these guys just got hurt and were never given a second chance. Some of these guys got in trouble. Some of these guys were just too immature, too young, too dumb, like many of us can admit to being, at the age of 21, 22, and are now getting a second and third opportunity to make it and at least play the game that they're passionate about.
Yeah. Like you said, I could see Steve Spurrier doing it. He runs a real, true spread system. He's going to be using a lot of pre-snap reads, motions to get his guys one-on-one in matchups across the board. That would probably be the closest you would get to like a college air raid system, or like in that aspect.
I'm interested to see what Atlanta does because I like some of their players on the outside. Kiaris, Garrett, Stephen Hill were mentioned. I mean, Robinson's probably going to be more of a receiving back than true runner. But, I mean, Childress and Vick were on the Kansas City staff these past few years. And as you saw, they've been more or less the more progressive offenses in the league. And they've gone more and more towards the college before anybody else did. And it'd be interesting to see if they want to carry forward with that or they go back to their old tricks, like with Childress with his tendency to go in the West Coast, or do they want to go and be the first ones to go into that realm? But I think the personnel kind of fits that if we're looking for pure spread.
Parker O asked, wasn't Gilbert a Saint? Is that correct?
Yes.
I thought that too.
He was a 6th-round pick by the Saints a few years back. Made it with them, I believe, practice squad for a little bit, bounced around. The team that's picking last year, 8th, Salt Lake, has an interesting decision. We don't know if they protected or picked it, but if they did protect, I really hope they protected Tommy Armstrong Jr. because I was very impressed when breaking down some of his tape.
I don't believe they did protect him, though, because the protects were the first 4 or 5 picks.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why it skipped around from the draft order. So they definitely decided to not protect any of their quarterbacks.
That's very interesting. Tommy Armstrong is going to be an interesting guy for maybe San Antonio in the 2nd round. He has some history with Mike Riley, so might be an interesting guy to keep your eye on. He was a quarterback for him in Nebraska, so might be there in the 2nd round for the San Antonio team. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in this draft.
The pick is in.
So, I want to. We have. I think it's one of the guys. Currently in the chat from the Sports Arena, a friend of the Blitzalytics, and they say that they have an interview tomorrow with the GM of the Apollo. So,
shout out to Eric Wilson
Sports
and
Arena.
Sports Arena, NBC Sports. Good friends and hopefully neighbors of ours when we get to the NFL Combine this year. That is definitely the plan.
So definitely check that out. It's going to be a good interview. We have
Eric,
somebody in chat
give
who
us your actual on where we can send these guys to be able to check out that interview. If you could send us a link or give us the address or for the radio station on what is it, iHeartRadio, we'll get that out for you.
Woodrum's
go ahead.
Josh Woodrum was just selected by the Salt Lake Stallions.
I like
Very
that.
interesting. One of the better quarterbacks in this draft. Still young at only 26 years of age. He's a big, sturdy quarterback. He can get outside of the pocket, but he understands how to take drops from under center as well. He has a good arm. He played for Baltimore this past year in the preseason, and he has a little bit of flair to him too. So that's an interesting type pick right there for Salt Lake, and a good pick in my opinion for their first-round pick.
Absolutely, I love it. He's one of my players to watch as the season unfolds. He's a big-bodied, sturdy quarterback. He played very well in the preseason. He has a strong arm and can make almost any throw on the field. If he gets a chance, he could be a big player in this league.
I'd have to say that was one of my favorite picks in that first round. Aaron Murray was hands down the best with Atlanta. Luis Perez was interesting, but that Woodrum pick getting at number 8. That's an awesome pick for Salt Lake. I think that's going to be
young too. He's only 26.
Yep, he'll be 26.
So just to get that information to the people, that interview with the Sports Arena can be heard on 1070 NBC Sports Radio on the iHeartRadio app.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
You're the man, Eric.
I mean, there are still quite a few big names left out there. I mean, we can go across here in just a second, but a lot of players with a lot of NFL playing time. I mean, Christian Hackenberg, you've got Scott Tolzien. I mean, there's quite a few guys that could still end up being the number 1 quarterback when this is all said and done. Don't you guys think?
Right. I think the first round, you've seen some people select guys that they're maybe more comfortable, that are more a veteran presence. I think this second round, you're going to see a lot more lottery tickets or guys that, like I said earlier, might have to sit the first few games till they get in the system, understand what that's going to be asked from them. And I think this is going to be the round where you're going to see the lottery tickets people might take a chance on because they're comfortable with the first round.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of like Mettenbergers and possibly Christian Hackenberg. Yeah, I think Hackenberg might be coming off in the 3rd round just because of his deficiencies, though I would not be surprised at all if he came out this round.
Of course,
totally agree.
All right, I got a name for you. You guys knew it was going to come up at some point. It's a quarterback draft, so Kaepernick. They all want to know why he's not in this or if you could see him in the next couple years. I made the point to him that I don't believe so with the league just starting out. It probably doesn't want to tiptoe into controversy, but any further thoughts on that?
I think he's got a bigger agenda in mind.
They've already said that they've been open to it, but I don't believe anything's going to happen until the controversy is averted.
I totally agree, Jason. I don't think he's going to get go to here until he exhausts all avenue in the NFL, especially with the collusion case. Yes. I could see it a few years down the road if the NFL is still pretty much keeping him out of the way and getting a team pickup, because we can all agree it's kind of embarrassing to see some of the quarterbacks starting in the NFL over him, even though I'm not the biggest fan of his skill set. He's still better than some of the quarterbacks that's been in there. And
if he came to the AAF, he would be the face of the league.
Right. I mean, and I think for him, he don't want to be a big fish in a small pond. He wants to make his name in the NFL. But if it's a few years down the road, if he's still not getting that opportunity, I would not be surprised to see him come here, dominate, and pretty much make it as hard as possible for an NFL team to still have an excuse not to sign him.
He would definitely be fun to watch under like a Mike Martz. That would be insane.
How about Michael Vick?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Ridiculous.
I think he's got a bigger agenda in mind. I think he's going to his legacy is going to be remembered for his off the field stuff, and he's kind of committing to that. I mean, of course, he's going to want to play football, but everything that's going on around him is so polarizing and so, at the end of the day, important long term that I think he's got to stick to his guns and just ride it out.
Yeah, if any of you want to know, Kurt Warner's future plans of playing in the league, check out the interview that Jack had with Kurt Warner regarding the Protect or Pick AAF draft released last Friday.
The guy I'm more interested to see if he'd come back to the AAF isn't Kurt Warner. I'm interested to see if Brett Favre's going to lace him up again.
Oh, man.
Fingers crossed.
You see him down in Birmingham slinging the ball around? So
I put up the graphic for the big board on what we have left. Coming in at our number 2 overall quarterback, Tommy Armstrong Jr. from Nebraska. Stephen Garcia is our 4th one from Southern Carolina. We also have Austin Appleby from Purdue transfer, Christian Hackenberg at number 6, Stephen Morse at number 7, Brandon Silvers at 8. We have him 8 and 9. Apologize. We have Patrick O'Brien. We also have Zach Mettenberger, Scott Tolzien, and Dalton Sturm out of University of Texas San Antonio. So there's still quite a few talented quarterbacks still on the draft board. Our boards obviously look a lot different than what these guys did, because some of these guys we didn't even know were going to be a part of the draft or were inside of it. So interesting to see where these guys go. I think Tommy Armstrong has to be at the top of the 2nd round.
Absolutely. Definitely. And then we had a question, any solid veterans? The two big veterans are Josh Johnson, that was picked in the 1st round, and Scott Tolzien, who's still available. He was a seasoned NFL backup quarterback, playing most of his career in Green Bay. He has the functional talent to be a quarterback in the AAF, but I believe he will be a backup in this league.
Don't be surprised if you see Tolzien going to the team that selected Luis Perez, since he's a little bit raw. He could get under center to begin the season and then give them a chance down the road.
Especially with only a month to prepare.
Right. I could see them definitely going that type of route.
Nope. So our boy Eric Wilson wants to know, is anybody surprised if Hackenberg's still on the board? I mean, obviously his NFL career didn't live up to the hype, but I mean, that's still an awfully big name out there.
I think second round is the lottery ticket.
He has the big arm, he has the talent, the physical ability, but it's the footwork mechanics. He's just raw. He's not ready. He's not developmentally ready. And if they're going to get him, it's going to be that lottery ticket. They're going to need him to sit. They're going to need him to take a back seat and learn the system if they are planning on giving him a chance to develop and be that pocket presence that could eventually make it back to the league. Like we said before, I believe that if Hackenberg is going to succeed, it's going to be as a RPO, get him out of the pocket, get him on the move, focus a little less on his footwork, a little less on his drop back in gun formation, and let him use that arm talent to really rip it down the field. But again, if they want to go that developmental route, then he's going to have to take a backseat.
Yeah, him and Mettenberger were the 2 highest drafted quarterbacks NFL drafted quarterbacks in this draft as it sits right now. Christian Hackenberg was fed to the Lions when he was at the Jets, or fed to the Wolves, however you want to put it. He didn't have any help, no offensive line, no weapons, no running back or no running game. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do in a developmental league like this. Also, I think Zach Mettenberger is definitely got to be going up in these higher picks just because of the raw physical traits and talent that he has. He looked good in spurts, but then they drafted Marcus Mariota, and he never really got to develop outside of that when he had a few starts or a handful of starts before they drafted Mariota?
Yeah, I believe so.
Steelers, I believe, when Ben was hurt as well. So he's played under some good coordinators, but he just needs an opportunity to be the guy and get the reps as a starter going out, which this first pick in the 2nd round might be interesting because they went with Josh Johnson, the veteran. Might be right away one of the lottery tickets going off, whether it's Hackenberg, even a Stephen Morris type guy that has a big arm that just needs some type of refinement. Austin Appleby, I was really high on. Big athletic guy that can fit it into tight windows. Good functional quickness outside of the pocket, can scramble if need be. So I could believe this first pick might be somebody, it's a lottery ticket type, it needs some refinement, they can take a little bit of time since they selected Josh Johnson in the first round.
Absolutely. I would love to see Mettenberger go here. He's after Aaron Murphy. He's one of my top guys to look at. He has the talent to succeed in this league. He's just going to need a little bit of time to develop.
Right.
Yeah, when he came out of LSU in 2014, I loved him as a late round project that could come in as a backup and develop as a spot start, possibly even develop into a starter type player in the NFL. It's just the injuries derailed his career.
Definitely agree with that assessment. He did have the arm talent to push the ball down the field, and he was good at pre-snap adjustments even. He was good, taking his drops from underneath center, and could be that might be your lottery ticket guy you take because he does have some NFL experience, knows how to work into an NFL system quickly. So we'll see here. We'll see. It's definitely interesting. Your next one.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just going to ask, who, in your guys' opinion, who's the most exciting or best or biggest name player in the league overall?
I think overall,
the ticket guy. Who are people going to buy tickets for?
Like,
just for
who's
offense? For offense, I would probably go with two guys, and Trent Richardson, former first-round bust from Cleveland and Indy. And
you ain't got to do him like that, Feiner. You ain't got to do him like that. It's a fresh start.
Zach Stacy, who had success in the NFL before Todd Gurley took his spot in LA.
Oh,
St.
I know
Louis
that.
at that time. Yeah.
I know.
So I think Zach Stacy actually might be the most talented or ready prospect in the AAF currently on offense, and that's possibly the player I'm watching the most.
Well, there's a number of guys I'm interested. If we're talking outside of the quarterback realm, I mean, there's a lot of interesting guys that were ex-NFL players, from Matt Asiata to Jalen Marshall, that put up big-time scores with Ohio State, had a cup of coffee with the Jets.
Bishop Sankey with Martz as well.
Yeah, Bishop Sankey. I mean, you just have a ton of guys. Stephen Hill, even. I love Shoelace, even. Denard Robinson, a safety running back. There's a lot of guys that are just interesting cases. Like I said, I mentioned Demario Richard. I'm a big fan of him from Arizona State. I watched a lot of game tape on him. I scoured him for Russ's company, GM Jr. He's a very interesting back. He showed up Kalen Ballage, the pick for the Dolphins this past year, a lot of times. Even their backup, I won't say backup, another one of their running backs in the stable at Arizona, Larry Rose III. He's a scat back, but he also got some underrated power. He's an interesting type guy. Devin Lucien, he's a bigger type receiver, got some wiggle. That's your boy, Jason.
I love him. He was my dark horse back in 2016 in the draft. I loved his ability to catch the ball in traffic, go up and get the ball. He had some wiggle at the top of his routes. He's not a refined route runner. He doesn't have the deep speed or the ability to run away in space, but he is going to get that contested ball in traffic. He had his time in the league bouncing around practice squads, namely with the team that drafted him in New England, but I believe he definitely has his career in the AF and successful at that.
There's an interesting guy even on the Apollos. He's a receiver for them. He's an ex-U.S. Olympic track sprinter, Marvin Bracey Williams. Seeing that type of speed inside of a Steve Spurrier offense, that could be deadly. And then an under-the-radar type guy. He doesn't win with speed or quickness. It's Jake Weineke from South Dakota State. He's a ridiculous red zone threat. There's a lot of guys. Even the guy that went number 1 overall in the Canadian Football League draft is signed by a team in the AAF from the Salt Lake Stallions, Mark Chapman. He went to Central Michigan. They have a really star-casted wide receiver class there at Salt Lake between Jake Weineke, DeMornay Pearson-L from Nebraska, a small explosive receiver. They can win inside and out. Kenny Bell, big play artist from Nebraska. The son of Flipper Anderson, Dress Anderson, that went to Utah, to a big-bodied power catcher, Corey Robertson from Southern Miss. There's just a lot of guys that are just biting at a chance to try to get on there. But I'm interested in a lot of guys that are in here. There's some of my favorite end-of-the-roster players from the NFL that are making it on the squads here and hopefully get a chance to put up some big numbers. I really like that Daquan Hampton for San Diego. He went to USC. They had called him Megaquan down to JUCO level because he was a big body receiver, could go up over people. So, and it's just going to be interesting to see who's going to be the fan favorites for each one of these franchises because they're starting from scratch. Who's going to be that face of the league going forward?
Nelson Spruce, Wes Saxton, Kieris Garrett. Yeah, there's a lot of just little to medium names that are going to go under the radar to begin. But I think at the end of the year, you're going to have some real fan favorites. Aaron Green, too. I really liked him out of UTSA or TCU. I like him a lot.
Explosive back. Yeah, he just had some injury issues and was a little lean, so we'll see if he can hold up, especially if he's in a committee backfield here. Could be explosive.
Mm-hmm. I like the Orlando Jalen Marshall, their smaller slot receiver. He's had to recover from a knee injury that derailed his career as well. And I think that he could be dangerous in the open field if given the chance.
Definitely. It's going to be interesting here with this first pick in the second round to see who San Diego is going to select. If they're going to go like our route and take the lottery ticket here, or they're going to continually build a type of offense that's predicated on veteran presence. So we'll see.
So I just want to give a quick shout out to you guys. I mean, the listeners out here in YouTube don't understand. You've got some guys who can break down some football here. This is a good portion of our scouting team. And I'd like for Jason to tell them a little bit about how our scouting is going to come out here while we've got a break.
Absolutely. Our scouting department. So right now we're working on our collegiate scouting. We do all things NFL draft related, including mock drafts, scouting reports. We release NFL-style scouting reports. We're planning on releasing our bulk around January, February area with over 200 prospects.
And we are the only website and the only scouting group, I should say, that has analytics built into our or metrics built into our scouting reports.
Absolutely.
So we actually have a weighted average that has had several different brilliant scouting minds take into consideration, which trait is most important, from a QB's footwork to a wide receiver's hands and a wide receiver's route running and their deep speed. Everything has an actual weighted average to it. Instead of going to, I won't name any of our competitors' names, but I'll just say instead of getting the big picture, strengths, weaknesses, and big picture, you get a overview of every trait and a specific breakdown of every trait, their good, their bad, where they succeed, where they might fit in the NFL, and then also a breakdown of their injuries. Everything you can think of goes into our scouting metric and our scouting reports. So please give those a check out in the next month or two when we start publishing those.
Absolutely. And if you get a chance, you can go look at our 2017 draft grades or 2018 draft grades of Baker Mayfield, Saquon Barkley, and the whole lot over there on our site right now. You can see how our NFL-style scouting reports work. We don't just do the strength, weakness, overview sections. Those are also incorporated, but we focus on all traits football, including athleticism, and for passers, mechanics, delivery, footwork, short accuracy, mid accuracy, deep accuracy, and pull it all from film and study the player itself to incorporate the grades and descriptions into each.
And we're also one of the only writers. We contribute to Lot Impact Trophy as well, one of the bigger awards given out college season here. We have been writing up weekly recaps of their award winners. So, because we're already focused on a lot of the college crop of players, and we've been writing over there. So check them out as well. We've been giving them recaps. Jace has been writing up some reports on the semifinalists and the preseason people that were put on the list. So check out that kind of stuff as well.
So does anybody want to talk about, it looks like every team but the San Diego Fleet chose to pick, and it looks like
actually there was 4 of them that chose to protect, Jack.
Okay.
San Diego, Atlanta, Memphis, and San Antonio. And San Diego came up with a quarterback I wasn't entirely high on, but you're going to see they value the spread system. It looks like they're going to be running with Mike Martz. Mike Bercovici was the quarterback at Arizona State here not too long ago. He's strictly a spread-style quarterback. He doesn't have a big arm. He has accuracy woes whenever he's hit a lot of times or under pressure, but he can hit players quickly off the line of scrimmage in short to intermediate routes, but he can scramble outside the pocket as well. So that's going to be an interesting offense. We can already be seen with Josh Johnson, their first pick that they protected, athleticism, a good arm, and now they took Mike Bercovici. That's a spread style, so it looks like they're going to be running a more spread style offense out in San Diego.
Andrew Malfris asks, "Who's the most solid team so far as front office? Your inner workings. Who do you like the best?"
Ooh.
As far as front office go, I love San Diego with getting in John Kitna, an NFL vet, as their offensive coordinator, and then their head coach, Mike Martz. He's the director, the orchestrator of the greatest show on turf back in the late 90s, early 2000s. He's going to be a tough guy to beat and get in that dual capacity in their offense.
Birmingham just selected Blake Sims in the second round, which is very interesting. They're also looking like they're going with an athletic type offense that's going to be rolling out and passing along the run. Going with RPO style with Perez being a good athlete. Sims almost a running back type build for a quarterback, but can throw the deep ball with decent accuracy. But he does like to whip the ball around the field. It's going to be an interesting type offense there in Birmingham.
And he'll sell tickets.
Yes, very much so. Like you said before, Ashton, got to put the butts in the seats to win the league here. The league battle between them and some of the other startup leagues.
Yep, the Birmingham, Alabama connection is strong there.
Yep.
Absolutely.
One of our YouTube viewers who's been very active in the chat goes by Dubbinson, I believe is how it's pronounced. It says, "Are there any notable rule changes from the AAF to the NFL that we know about?"
Yes, there is.
I think the biggest rule change would probably be the elimination of the kickoff.
Yeah, they're eliminating the kickoff. They're making you take 2-point conversions after touchdowns. Just a lot of interesting stuff. If you would need to take like an onside kick, you're going to be starting at the 35 of your own, I believe, at a 4th and 10 situation. So it's going to make more situations for big time plays in small areas. That's going to bring viewers into that instead of watching a low percentage play come out.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. Go check out Blitzalytics.com for all things football, scouting, podcasts, AAF content, and smash that like button. Follow us on all social media platforms. Thank you so much.
Let's have everybody shout out their Twitter handles. Of course, you can find me on Twitter at RobRobGraphics.
I am at Jack Bourgeois, BOLOSHWA. I am the one messing up the graphics behind the scenes. I apologize, guys, for getting these teams mixed up a little bit. Like I said, the information the AAF gave us was a little bit backwards from what we are stuck with, so we're just going to roll with the format we have. But let's hear it, guys. Twitter handles.
Yeah. You can follow me at Feiner Scores. Hit me up with any questions you have, any fantasy news. Rob and I man, along with George Haraxis, man the fantasy podcast for Blitzalytics. You can hit me up with any fantasy questions, any sports-related questions, any football, scouting, or related general content from the AAF football, NFL, collegiate, anything.
And I'm Roy Countryman. My Twitter handle is at PreacherBoyRoy. You can hit me up with any questions for your AAF. To anything scouting, I'm one of the main scouts in the system here with Jason coming up here, and I'm a big-time NFL guy. I can answer your fantasy questions, but I'm probably going to direct them over to Jason. But anything scouting-wise or AAF content, hit me up. I'd more than likely get you up pretty soon here an answer. So.
Roy is definitely our AAF expert.
Ashton Moore. At Ashhole1056. I just like arguing about sports. So if you have anything on your mind, let me know.
If anybody has anything bad to ever say about Patrick Mahomes, please go ahead and
yes.
Shameless plug.
Funny. Yes, he is.
It was a great game, man. It was a great game, dude.
Let's throw this out there. Let's at least admit that Ashton was our biggest AAF component months
on the
scene
scene
months ago. He was the one to break the news on the Blitz Breakdown, which is our first podcast, but we're going to be doing several different podcasts. From our fantasy podcast, we're doing a scouting podcast with the Russ Lande, which will be starting up very soon once draft season really starts rolling around. So check that out in the next few weeks. We will have that out soon.
I'm very intrigued with the
congratulations
future.
Also. Congratulations also to Jack and George for getting that number 50 of the Blitz Breakdown episode out. Congratulations. Great work.
Appreciate it.
Good work, guys. Good work, guys.
Thank you. Couldn't have done it without you guys. So we're just
Then
getting
proud.
started. 50 more will be right around the corner, and then we'll be talking big numbers after that. So, but let's give these guys what they want to hear. Let's talk some football. Let's get into some of these questions that we might have.
I want to see
kudos.
Tommy Armstrong come off the board here, especially with Arizona could value a little bit of athleticism. Let's see Tommy Armstrong come off the board.
Who originally owned the rights to Tommy Armstrong?
Salt Lake.
So do you think they'll just pull the trigger and get him here in round 2?
It's possibly. It's a good possibility.
What do you think of Birmingham selection of Blake Sims?
I'm not a big fan of him, but I agree with Ashton. I mean, it's going to be a ticket seller, being that he's a hometown type of guy. He's not the best quarterback that was available, but there's obviously something to say about what type of system they want. They're going for a mobile quarterback with Luis Perez having some good athleticism. So we'll see what happens.
A couple more shout-outs from the Twitter feed over here. Higby Noob 86 is on your side, Ashton. Says, Showtime, baby. Let's go, Casey.
Let's get it. Hey,
and then Dubinson keeps asking super fun questions. This one's a good one. If the lead succeeds, do you see the possibility of an AAF video game like Madden?
Ooh.
I think it would make it more towards the NCAA feature. Since they are paying their players, they would be able to get the rights for that game. And it would be more of like a NCAA type feel for a video game style.
I know I would definitely play it. Absolutely.
I definitely am there with you.
I'm hoping it's more like Blitz. But
we need another Blitz game. If any of you know NFL Blitz, it was one of the best sports games created back in Nintendo's glory days of the N64. If you're too young, go out and buy a N64 and play NFL Blitz.
And that's coming from the youngest guy in this group. If he knows, then you definitely need to check it out. But John Wolfert was just taken by the Arizona Hotshots, I believe. Am I correct on that one? I'm actually getting that one right.
Yes, you are. That's a guy we did not have a write-up on. He was not on any of the press release.
Former Wake Forest quarterback, though, also had a little bit of time in New York with the Jets. But, yeah, so that's, again, another one that we didn't see coming. Hopefully we can really start getting in with the AAF and get all these news and get these updates to you guys as quick as possible.
I'm going to try to do a write-up too, Jack, here in the next few days of maybe some draft grades on the quarterbacks all selected. So stay tuned for that. Anybody that's listening live here now, we'll be having in the next few days a write-up of the people that are selected.
I just want to say these little Letterman jackets that they're getting when they get picked are sweet. Like in the NFL, you get a hat, which is cool and all, but these guys are getting like legit jackets. These are sick.
I think that ties into them wanting to be, like Jason said, more tied with the collegiate football. That's more collegiate style. It's very clean, and I enjoy it.
and I love they brought back the brand of starter back in the That's one of my favorite things as a kid to remember, going out and getting your starter apparel with all the NFL stuff. So
I thought that's what they were. I wasn't positive though, but I'm all on board for starter jackets.
Starter jackets. I remember those when you'd get stabbed for them, and now they're at Walmart. So that's special change for them.
Yep.
So again, we've got some more questions here about expansion. I've kind of avoided them yet far because again, I know that we don't know anything confirmed yet. But what do you think it would take? Like, it would have to be massively successful, minimally successful, before we start seeing an expansion into maybe 10 or 12 teams?
Well, I'll give you this much, Rob. If we see this league stay around for, say, 2 to 3 seasons, the first season is hardest to be able to come out in the green. It's hard to make money in the first season as you're starting up. But if you can see it make a 2 to 3 year run where it's successful and breaking even or right over breaking even, I could see the NFL actually partnering with them and funding it somewhat because of the brain trust that's put this in order and the NFL experience, because the NFL wants to improve their bottom tier of their roster all they can to improve their type of players there. I could see that either being a type of an allotment system like the NFL Europe used to be, where you're able to give a certain amount of people back to it. And if it's successful to say 3 or 4 years, I definitely could see them expanding, maybe even double the amount of what it is now. I have, no good authority by anybody that I've talked to about it. But if they're going to be a successful league, I could definitely see it becoming even a 12 to 16 team league.
I mean, the whole northern region hasn't been touched yet. I mean, there's a vast market that isn't being accounted for. And let's not brush aside the fact that this next CBA discussion may not go as planned, and there could be a significant time where there is a need for an alternative league, and they could very well hedge their bets and just say, okay, let's put some money into this, and let's make this a better product. So there's a money left on the table.
This is another thing. Maybe you can go. Let me ask you this, because you might have an answer for this too, Feiner. This is something I can't confirm, but maybe gentleman Joe Cavazos in the chat said that the players have 3-year contracts when they sign, and then they can be released to go to the NFL, but cannot go to the XFL. Is that correct?
Right. Yes, that is exactly what I was going to bring up. So when you're talking about NFL, we're going to need to see a couple of years in this league to see if it can confirm a relationship with the NFL as a affiliate, and possibly shuffle players into the NFL system. However, the big key with that is the 3-year contracts with a clause that states if you have an NFL opportunity, you are able to dismiss the contract in the AAF and go and sign a contract in the NFL. The difference of that is you're not allowed to sign with the XFL, and the big difference is in CFL contracts, you are stuck with that team that you signed with for 2 years.
Which is why Manziel wouldn't have been able to come back into the league.
Exactly.
Because if he would have known the type of quarterbacks and the type of offensive coordinators that are in place now, I don't believe he would have went the CFL route.
I agree. Absolutely. That's going to be the big key if there's going to be a relationship between the NFL and the AAF. What's really going to be a big thing about the expansion, you have to think about how they can't start out too quick. It has to take time to develop. If they're going to expand teams, we're going to have to see possibly even more than 3 years of success. That's going to be from viewership, fans, ticket sales. What's going to help ticket sales is there are a couple teams that are in cities that do not have a NFL team, even states that do not have an NFL team, and that's going to drive sales. But the big thing is when you look at leagues that tried to start out too quickly, mainly arena football, they're starting to decrease teams because they're not getting the funding. The AAF is starting to get the funding. They're starting to get the views. They're getting early big names to endorse it, and that's what's going to help this new league grow.
Was just taken by the Atlanta Legends. And before that, Stephen Morris, former Miami quarterback, was taken by the Orlando Apollos. He had quite a run in the NFL. Jacksonville Jaguars, Philadelphia Eagles, Indianapolis Colts, Washington Redskins, Seattle Seahawks, Houston Texans as of this year, and is now with the team that he was presented to. So he's sticking with the Orlando Apollos. And now it is Matt Sims, who was just taken by the Atlanta Legends.
I love the Stephen Morris pick by Orlando. He's an athletic kid with good arm. He can deliver from multi-platforms with his arm. He did have some injury problems, but he is a calming presence inside the huddle. So that's a nice pick for Orlando, especially after Garrett Gilbert early. That's going to be an interesting quarterback battle. I really do not like the pick by Atlanta. Matt Sims, I do not think is an NFL caliber quarterback, let alone an AAF type quarterback. They're strictly going for a career backup type, and I believe he's going off of his last name only. He has a middle-of-the-road type arm. He can't throw with anticipation. He's giddy inside the pocket when he's under pressure. I do not like that pick, but they also probably got the best quarterback in the draft in Aaron Murray, so you can't fault him, I guess, too much for trying to find a NFL little bit of experience backup. So
maybe he interviewed well. I mean, he comes from a football family. He has good intellect in that aspect. Possibly, I'm grasping at things.
Maybe they need a good play-by-play guy. Is what
possibly,
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6-year NFL career from 2012 to 2017, but career backup, 6'3", 210 pounds. I don't think he's going to have a resurrection and be able to make Daddy as proud as he'd like.
No.
Financially, what are you looking at as the contracts in the AAF? Does anybody know numbers?
3 years, $250,000.
Yep, $75,000 a year.
Yeah,
or just
so it's good money. Plus, if you don't have the problems of going, say, north of the border, getting your visa, all the background check that goes into that with the CFL, and like Jason was saying earlier, with you're
taxes
not locked in,
well.
you're not locked into that 3 years. You have no opportunity of coming back.
2 years. CFL.
2 years, excuse me. This one, you have the out clause right away. If an NFL team offers you a contract, you can go expand upon that, opportunity.
And again, the tax rate in Canada is insane.
Yes.
That's why the Raptors have problems.
Absolutely.
So, obviously, we talked about it a little bit earlier, and Ashton brought up the North. Could you guys, Andrew Malfris asked about a second team in Texas or in Oklahoma in the future? Do you see any of that happening, or are you guys just forecasting?
I would go north before that.
I really think it would be northern states. Like, I was really surprised Pittsburgh didn't get one with Polamalu and Ward. Their type of affiliation with that that kind of either Pittsburgh area to the Harrisburg area. Philadelphia.
It's extremely the only problem I have with that would be it's extremely hard. It's extremely hard to grow a sports organization and team if there's already an affiliate of the same sport. And with Pittsburgh, it would be extremely hard to drive that viewership and that crowd away from the Steelers. What helps is that it's not in the same season. They're not actually competing with the NFL.
See, I agree with you on that point, Jason. I disagree that it would be hard to get a following, especially with the NFL minds that you have in place. If you had the right type of NFL backing in them type of cities, this type of fans that you have north of the border are crazy. Say you would put some in like Pittsburgh to Chicago to Minnesota, even Wisconsin areas, even out, anywhere in the Midwest areas.
And that would just enable all year-round football. This is a February to
I feel like what could drive sales, though, for a organization like the AAF and for a big-time sports league that they're trying to develop into would be to utilize states that don't have a following, that don't have a fan base.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you directly real quick then. Do you see the AAF, and again, the XFL would do the same thing, but watching what the cities that those specific leagues play in do. So again, the XFL was just granted in St. Louis, so the AAF pays attention.
Is going to do that. The XFL is going to be doing that. That's what the XFL, I believe, will try to do. Is they're going to try to get cities in states that are not affiliated with a professional team.
The more interesting question for you guys and my thought process is, you see how the NFL wants to expand its markets outside of our borders. What's to say that they don't try to go global and say Mexico, Europe, in this type of league with a smaller funding base, hit up them big markets, make it a boon in the marketplaces like them, and make the league like that as a separate, like an AFC, NFC type conference, and then you play the winner in a championship game.
Wouldn't that be glorious? Just an international tournament.
That would be amazing, actually.
Just saying, because we're arguing about inside the United States, a lot of this market, the NFL is continually trying to grasp at straws, whether it's over in Europe or down south of the border. I can definitely see that.
Maybe if it's a close relationship, like maybe a team in Canada or just below the border, but it's so hard to have overseas play. And I don't believe that that's going to happen anytime soon.
I think the north of the border, I really don't think they would expand up in Canada just because of the CFL, AAF type relationship, stealing the talent.
That's exactly why I think that most teams, if not all, are going to stay in the States. It's extremely hard to expand a league outside of one country, especially if it's overseas, which is why I don't believe that Jacksonville will be moving over to London either.
It had been discussed earlier in the chat. Anybody have any feeling that eventually the AAF and the CFL could merge together?
No.
I
Just
doubt
because it's two
Shut
different
down.
leagues, 2 different games. Just like what Russ Lande said. I mean, they're two entirely different games. The rules are different. I think they're going to be the main AAF. The main competitor is going to be the CFL in terms of allocating talent and finding talent. The talent pool, I think, for the CFL is going to shrink massively due to the structure of the AAF, having some of these the close attachment to the NFL, which is a lot closer than the relationship between the CFL and the NFL. There really is no relationship between them, and especially because CFL has that clause that they do not allow anyone out of that contract for the 2-year period. I just don't think it could happen. I think the biggest competitor to the AAF or to the CFL is going to be vice versa. It's going to be the AAF or the CFL, and then the XFL is going to be. We'll see. I think the XFL.
I think it's going to be its own thing. I don't think it's going to be necessarily a competitor. I think they're going to try to make it its own spectacle.
Yeah.
The big thing with the XFL is that they have money. They have a lot of money.
They do have
the
money.
AAF has CBS, though.
The XFL has money, but they do lack the name notoriety and the veteran stability of the AAF. That's what makes this different than any other type of foray. Than any other,
as well as the endorsements.
Right, and they have a lot. I mean, you're looking right here. You have Kurt Warner and even Trent Dilfer that are joining the cast for the broadcast. People are willing to come from the NFL to this league to help nurture it. That's a really unique type situation you haven't seen a lot in the past. Most leagues have been like, fire and ice, completely opposite.
I do want to state, though, I think it's huge that this draft is even being nationally televised. I think that alone is huge.
Well, earlier they were talking. People were talking about funding. The CBS partnership's massive.
When they announced
all
that
their games are going to be
partnered
on
with
CBS.
When they partnered with CBS, that's what drove the ratings.
So we've got another fun question here. Mo, I think it's Mo Thompson asked. We know the NFL used to be no fun league. They've kind of let up on the end zone celebrations. Any rules of that in the AAF? Are we going to be able to have some fun?
Not aware of any, Rob. But the AAF is focused on fan engagement. So anybody that's wanting to watch the game, there's going to be more like live stat updates, next gen stats, betting props, that kind of thing, and fantasy football that's almost immediate type of platform that hasn't been introduced yet. All that kind of interaction is just leading to more type interaction with the fan and the actual league. So that is one of their best platforms that they have announced, is the type of fan interaction they're trying to drive with this league.
All right, Salt Lake Stallions just picked former 7th round Niners pick and USF quarterback B.J. Daniels. That's an interesting pick, very athletic, mobile.
Was a wide receiver in the NFL, wasn't he?
Right, yes, he was. And he played for the Seahawks for a cup of coffee as well. But that fits in. Woodrum is a good athlete as well. Their first selection in the opening round. B.J. Daniels is an even better athlete than he is. But they both have strong arms that can drive the ball down the field. Daniels could throw vertical routes well at UCF, and he could scramble outside the pocket. So we're seeing another, move type offense that might utilize the RPOs. And
let me ask you this directly, Roy, because this name will make you happy. Do you think we've got some slash capability in him in this league?
Oh, you're my man. That's my guy. Shout out to Cordell Stewart. That's my boy right there from whenever I was a Steeler fan as a young kid. But definitely could see some trickeration with B.J. Daniels in the backfield, with the RPOs or let me throw another one out there, Antoine Randall type plays on some reverse passes and whatnot, a la Super Bowl. So definitely interesting play right there.
I'd assume Blake Sims would be used at some more or less in the same token.
Yeah, I could see actually Blake Sims converting almost more to a running style, wildcat type quarterback that has special packages. I don't see him as being a
receiving option.
Yeah, I don't see him becoming a receiving option. B.J. Daniels, I could see him wearing many hats where he could play quarterback in a pinch, but they might have a package for him as well as more of a receiving type threat. But he is a good athlete, and it could be a scrambling type offense that he could be utilized in as well. He's also on the little bit of an older side. I believe he'll be 29. Yeah, he'll be 29 as the season begins. So, but he can throw accurately off platform, scrambling, and and he put up some pretty good performances when he was in college.
Does anybody have any feelings about rivalries going forward? Can you see any on this list what teams you think are just those are going to be the teams?
Atlanta, Birmingham. I think for the simple fact that it's Georgia versus Alabama. That's really the only one I could see possibly being an instant rivalry. None of the other ones really stand out in my opinion. I mean, do
you think that the AAF could grasp onto the Memphis-San Antonio NBA rivalry and play off of that?
That's where I was going to go. Maybe Memphis-San Antonio type parlay off of hate from different sports, and maybe
it would make sense.
Each other.
It could. Some of these picks, it just kind of does seem like the league is going in a different direction. It's not necessarily going with the typical traditional quarterbacks. I think that as much as this is going to be an experimental league, as much as it's going to be a developmental league is what I'm trying to get at. I think that we really are going to see some offenses that we've never seen before, not even in college. I think they're really going to try and throw some things out there offensively that they would never in their wildest dreams attempt in an NFL game, for the simple fact that at least they're trying. They're going to do something different, and they're going to be a lot more creative with these offenses than I think we originally thought.
Build off of that point, does anybody know about the coaching contracts and how the stability given to them going into this?
I do not know. That has not been released for any of the head coaches, coordinators, or positional coaches. And we have Christian Hackenberg off the market here. He goes to Memphis, which is I love that spot. Yes, very interesting with the established quarterback coach in David Lee, I believe his name is there. And he's whispered a lot of good things into some quarterbacks' ears over the years. And that's an interesting pick because their first pick for Memphis was the guy out of nowhere, Troy Cook. And he might be competing right away for that starting position. But you have to be somewhat skeptical of the Cook pick if they're not comfortable having him being the starter right off the bat. But could be the face of the franchise a few weeks in.
In Memphis, you got Chris Givens, receiver. He's a speed threat. Chris big body. Is going to be able to go up, get the contested ball, and then in the backfield, Zach Stacy. He's the possibly the one that I'm going to watch the most in this league. I love that fit with that offense.
I like Antonio Andrews out of there personally. I just remember really liking him coming out.
Yeah. That being fit, they got some good backs that they can lean upon there. That if he would be their starter, he wouldn't have to come in and win the game. That one's a little bit more of a throwback pick for Mike Singletary and his run-based offense, more than Troy Cook. But I'm sure they had their eyes on Cook for a reason, and they protected him for a reason.
So Joe Cavazos says that no game can end in a tie. Is that also true?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it.
Do you know how that would work then?
I believe it's almost the same format as the college football where they continually get possessions until one can't match each other.
2-point conversions instead of...
Yeah.
Well, you have to go for the 2-point conversion anyways. Mm-hmm. You can't
take a field instead of waiting until the third possession.
How long before you think the NFL embraces that 2-point conversion rule?
Yeah, in regulation, they're not allowed to kick extra points. It's always
CBA.
Conversion. Yeah.
Yep, nothing but 2-point conversions. Again, like I said, this is an experiment more than or just as much as it is a development league, and we're gonna see some wild stuff. I'm really looking forward to it, especially because there's a big question mark tied to each team. You know, what kind of offense are they gonna bring? It's not like they have game film to study yet, so expect these probably the first few games at least to be quite exciting and quite high scoring.
To get back to your question, Rob, I could see if this is a resounding success where you're made to take the 2-point conversion and the excitement it brings, as well as taking away the onside kick, kind of demeriting the kicker's responsibilities a little bit. I could definitely see the way the NFL is trying to get away from the injury cases that they're facing, especially on special teams. I could see them adopting that if it's a resounding success and a lot of excitement.
How many games are they playing? Is it 8?
It's either.
Have they came out with the schedule?
Yes, they have.
I can look that up for you.
It is 10. There's 10 games before the playoffs. Your opening week is Atlanta at Orlando, San Diego at San Antonio, Memphis at Birmingham, and Salt Lake at Arizona, all on Saturday, 2 games on Saturday, February 9th, and 2 on Sunday, February 10th.
I'm pretty sure they're all going to be broadcasted on CBS's app.
4 games a week, 10 weeks, man. Love that schedule.
I don't know if it's just the app, Ashton, or if
as
it's
well
actually,
as the network.
Yep, CBS network. Here we go. We have San Antonio up with another pick. They took Dustin Vaughn in the first round.
I wouldn't be surprised with Mettenberger to.
You took the words out of my mouth, Jason. That's who I was thinking they might be taking here.
I think it has to be Zach Mettenberger. He's definitely the most talented quarterback left on the big board.
With Vaughn, with Vaughn as their first quarterback taken, they need Mettenberger to be able to come in and compete. I believe
they took Marquis Williams, the athletic ball slinger, the athletic
Vaughn.
The athletic quarterback from North Carolina, had some of the ACC records while he was at North Carolina. He's good at scrambling.
He's a ball player.
He's a big, thick running quarterback and takes some shots. He's not the tallest. He's still a younger quarterback. But
that's going to be San Antonio's system under Mike Riley. They're going to be using a lot of quarterbacks' athleticism.
Ooh, I like San Antonio, man.
I'm surprised that they didn't go with Tommy Armstrong over him because he's kind of a similar, has some athleticism, and I believe he has a better arm and a better understanding of how to get under center as well because Mike Riley likes to take under center.
Honestly, it's kind of like looking like San Antonio might not be putting together a quarterback as much as an athletic squad.
Well, that's questionable with Dustin Vaughn because he's not a good athlete. So it's going to be interesting to see their quarterback competition if, what type of offense they're going to run, whether it's going to be the athletic rollout type that might, utilize RPOs, or if you're going to go, strictly under center, 5-step drop, get the ball out quickly, because Vaughn does not have great arm strength to get the ball down the field, whereas Williams can push the ball down the field.
So we'll go back over this. Michael Beachy was drafted 1, Blake Sims 2, John Wolfert 3, Stephen Morris 4, Matt Sims 5. I lost it.
BJ Daniels 6, Christian Hackenberg 7, and Marquis Williams 8.
Thank you.
So who are the big names still available? Garcia, Armstrong,
Tommy Armstrong, Austin Appleby, Brandon Silvers, Mettenberger, Patrick O'Brien, Tolzien, one with NFL backup.
I was expecting he'd go by now just because of his experience and just of that quarterback room experience because he's been around some good quarterbacks. But we'll see.
Yeah, he would be able to jump into a pro-style system, and that's what we're kind of looking at is a lot of these pro-style quarterbacks, they haven't gone off the board yet. So it's definitely shifting to a new age of football. They're trying to get ahead of the curve and not behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So Van Houten 64 asks, could you see the NFL using the AAF to evaluate cities for possible future NFL expansion? Like one of these cities?
Wouldn't see why they'd ignore it.
That's an interesting question because a lot of these markets are starved for the type of football craze that the NFL spectacle is. And if they have, big ticket sales, it would not surprise me they use it as a proving grounds.
I completely
agree.
San
Antonio
being in Salt Lake City as of right now, the entire city itself is excited about the Stallions being here. They are diehard
Is there being some buzz over there?
State fans, so giving them spring football or giving them a pro football, even a developmental league, minor league, whichever you want to call it, is definitely bringing excitement to this city. And before there was definitely talks about them possibly bringing an NFL team here way back when, and it was just because of the fact that there was such a lack of population, and now there's the population. Now they're selling out the Utah State games, and so that's a good point. There definitely could be a testing ground. Again, this is they're experimenting with all kinds of stuff, including the cities.
Yeah. And that was my point earlier. To get teams in cities that don't have that professional affiliate, it would help, I believe, the league grow as a whole.
San Antonio was a candidate to get the Raiders before they obviously chose Vegas. And there's obviously reason why they would have went there. So it's going to be interesting to see how San Antonio adapts to having a team.
I'm also interested to see how the one that is tied, like Atlanta, obviously, as the Falcons. I'm going to watch the numbers on that.
It's got Vick attached to it. It's going to sell.
Now, do you guys think that there could possibly one day be a team per team, an AAF team per NFL team, and actually develop it similar
like a true
to how
minor league?
MLB does it?
I don't see team by team, but I could see it as say 3 or 4 teams are allotted to each one, because I don't see 32 franchises going in. But I could see if they expand to say 16.
16, that's what I was...
2 teams apiece getting allotted, say, 5 players apiece. That's 10 players on a roster, say, instead of 53 to 75. That'd be interesting. And I'm not also sure if the AAF's even going to expand. I don't know the exact roster size, if it's going to be 53 or 75. Or are they going to even include a practice squad on their type of rosters? So where you can still have guys that develop that are really raw and get the coaching, but just aren't on the active roster.
We're already getting MVP odds. I love this. So Josh Johnson is 5-1. He is the favorite. And then it is Garrett Gilbert at 6-1, Aaron Murray at 8-1, Trevor Knight 8-1, Josh Woodrum 10-1, Dustin Vaughn 15-1, Troy Cook 20-1, and Luis Perez 25-1. And the field is 2-1. So I guess the field is still technically the favorite, as I could see that being true with us having no idea what's going to happen in this league.
Yeah.
Well, plus the field gives you every other position.
Right.
Yeah.
I like Aaron Murray,
before you said that, I like Aaron Murray. But Johnson definitely, I think has the upper ground, just knowing how to develop in a system. They only have that month to prepare, so he should be ready to go right out of the gate.
Well, see, my question with the MVP is there going to be a quarterback bias in this league for that, or are you going to get a more even MVP vote?
I think it's
definitely Trent Richardson.
Oh,
I was thinking a guy like a Zach Stacy where he could power through some stuff.
I agree. I think Zach Stacy is one to look at if you're not talking about a quarterback MVP. They also might go defensive players if that's where they're going.
I still like my guy DeMario Richard if we're talking best running backs in the league. Trent Richardson, I'm not a big fan of.
He had no work ethic.
He can't see a hole a mile wide.
No, I mean I can't fit through the rushing lane, and I'm a 300-pound dude.
What was the big thing was Trent Richardson though. He came out and said Nick Saban gave me a schedule. Nick Saban gave him a schedule. He was told to be here at this time on this day. If you're not here, you're in trouble. Trent Richardson went to every training session, every practice, every game. And when he was at Brown, he just didn't have that stability. He didn't have that schedule, and that's when he fell off.
Let me bring up a point to you real quick. And again, I tie it into an NBA thing where you saw Victor Oladipo was a middling player until he went back home and tore it up in Indiana. Could you see maybe something like that? I mean, he's going back to Birmingham where he's already a king.
He could, because he has a good supporting cast around him of, people that he's familiar with back, like Jason said, in Alabama. But the key question then is, okay, you blow up there. Are you going to be able to do it outside of that zone? Are you going to be able to perform, on a different team? Or even if you do get an NFL type of opportunity, or are you just going to fall back into your work ethic